Welcome to the Async Coding Interview series by Paul Fruitful. In this season, we'll be focusing on data structures. Grab your popcorn and stay tuned. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode on the Async Coding Interview Data Structure series. So in this episode, we'll be looking at the output restricted queues. And in the output restricted queues, we'll be looking at the implementation, definition, and how it relates to the linear queue. So stay tuned and pay rapt attention to this episode. So an output restricted queue is a type of linear queue where nodes can be removed from one end of the queue but can be added from the both ends of the queue. So this is the direct opposite of the input restricted queue. In the input restricted queue, you discover that the node can be removed from the both ends of the queue but only can be added from one end. For the output restricted queue, the reverse is the case here, because you can just only remove nodes from one end. So it has to be either the left or the right, and most of the times you can only remove from the left, because the left is where the oldest nodes are kept, and the right is where the most recent nodes are kept. So this is the definition of the output restricted queues. So next up, looking like a visual depiction of what the output restricted queue would look like if you were told to draw it. Okay guys, so this is the graphic of what an output restricted queue should look like. You can see that you can insert from the both ends of the queue, but you can only delete from one end. So that's typically what an output restricted queue is. So what we are going to be looking at next is the implementation of this queue. So this is the implementation stage right now of the output restricted queues. So first off, we start with creating a queue class that handles every queue object. So the queue object is the queue data structure at initialization. So before I start going through these codes written here, these codes are just pseudocodes. That means they are not based on any language in particular. It's just an imaginary language syntax that I made up so I can be able to explain this implementation better to you. So before you start any implementation, I advise you to go back to the previous episodes so that you can understand this data structure better, and also advise you to have a good knowledge of object-oriented programming. So this is the queue class, and in the queue class, the first method we will be creating is the initialize method. So in most languages, this can be like in JavaScript. This initialize method is equivalent to the constructor method. In Python, this initialize method is equivalent to the init method. So at initialization, we want the queue class to have an attribute called queue, and that queue is going to be assigned to an empty array. So that array will be used to store every node that is going to be added into the queue later. So next up, we're looking at some methods that are going to make this queue class functional. Okay, so this is the enqueue method. So what this method does is that it adds nodes into the queue. So this method, because of this is an output restricted queue, that means its inputs you can add nodes to this particular type of queue from the both ends, from the right and from the left. So it's going to take in two arguments. One is the value argument. The value argument is what contains the value you want to add into the queue, and the end is to pick what side you want to add the value in, what side of the queue you want to add the value into. So you use a conditioner to check. If it is right, then append it to the right hand side, but if it is left, then append it to the top, which is like the left hand side, the first node to appear. So if the person picks the left side, that means the node is going to when he inserts that current node, is going to go to the top. But if he picks right, okay, so this is the enqueue method. So what this method does is that it adds nodes into the queue. So this method is because of this is an output restricted queue. That means its input, it can be, you can add nodes to this particular type of queue from the both ends, from the right and from the left. So it's going to take in two arguments. One is the value argument. The value argument is what contains the value you want to add into the queue, and the end is to pick what side you want to add the value in, what side of the queue you want to add the value into. So you use a conditioner to check. If it is right, then append it to the right hand side, but if it is left, then append it to the top, which is like the left hand side, the first node to appear. So the person picks the left side, that means the node is going to have, he's going to, when he inserts that current node, is going to go to the top. But if he picks right, when he inserts that current node, it's going to go to the bottom. So that's it for the enqueue method. So next up, we'll be looking at the dequeue method and how it works. Thank you for watching the video. I'll be leaving links to helpful resources to get you grounded in these concepts. I will be releasing a video every Friday, so click the subscribe button and stay tuned. Peace.